Hey Jake,
Hey Justin, sorry, I was just messaging Margaret. She is joining now. She thought it
excellent.
was the same Zoom link, so I was like, no, I got that. So
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good, man, good.
How are you doing?
Doing good, staying busy.
How's things in Las Cruces?
It rained this week, so that's nice. We don't get
That's
that
good.
often. Yeah,
That's a big deal.
and it
Yeah.
was a good rain. It was a big deal.
Right? Yeah, that's great.
So might be a little while before we get some more, but
I know we've been having this dust storms and I don't remember these dust storms growing up, so
yeah,
that's a different feeling.
yeah. I guess we're used to those a little more down here.
Yeah. I'm gonna give Margaret a call real fast just to make sure that
Yeah,
she's okay. All right.
yeah, go ahead.
All right. Awesome. She is in. Great.
So,
Yeah, so I'm actually headed down to El Paso next Wednesday. It's International Day of the Bicycle. I don't know if you've
very
heard about
cool.
this. Yeah, so it's happening in Juarez from 5 to 8. So
Mm,
I'm gonna kind of just sneak in and ride my bike with all my friends down there.
Very fun. I have yet to do the ride in Juarez, but
Yeah,
I'll be down in Juarez in July.
nice. What's going
Yeah.
on?
I'm gonna go spend the night. We're just gonna go hang out in Juarez for a night, and then we're flying out to Mexico City.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Awesome. For vacation, fun.
yeah. It's just I needed a week off, so I've been planning it for a bit. So I want to go see Mexico City.
And it makes a big difference, right? Oh my gosh, the cost
It
for
was almost half cost.
yeah, that's great. Great. Well, we had a great session last week. So Margaret is just going to continue where she left off from last week's presentation. Hashim did great. We had a lot of great people. Bougie B was here. I believe Melissa, you might have been there last week as well, but welcome. Thanks for joining early. Yeah, a lot of familiar faces.
Hey, and then after the call, Jake, if you have a couple minutes, stick
Okay.
around, do some admin stuff. We don't
Okay.
have to
Yeah,
do
sounds
it.
great.
Should be quick.
Awesome. Just kind of talking about ag-wise, I don't know how you all are planting right now. It was a good, we had a good rain, and so that to me was the moment I was waiting for to just put in some last starts and, just get my garden ready, and then I got a new composter and I'm just so impressed with it. I don't know if y'all see these new ones that you just put the compost in and it just heats it up and moves it around and it turns it into pre-compost. It blew my mind. I just this whole time I've been, composting the regular way, been having a lot of cockroaches, in our house, just around our house, and I was like, it's time. And so I just got to put that out there, thank goodness for innovations. So I'm always interested to hear how people are irrigating and how people are composting. But speaking of the irrigation queen, Margaret, I know you got some stories with pumps. Welcome. Um, Thanks for joining. Yeah,
Yeah, compost
yeah.
compost is always a commitment,
It's always a
So
commitment. Yeah, and it's hard because it's so dry here.
yeah,
It is so dry. So I've really learned to do it either underground, but then it takes a while. But you got to be on it, and you're gonna get a lot of other creatures, for better or worse. They're helping
yeah.
decompose it, but I was ready for a new way. So I can't yeah, I can't shout the praises enough. Lumi, I got it off of Facebook Marketplace, but it really turned in like all my old, banana peels, everything into compost within one night. I set it at 10 p.m. I woke up this morning and it was pure compost. And I really couldn't believe it. I didn't think that that was possible.
You got to show me this machine.
I will I
I'm
will show you
fascinated.
it. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
It's amazing.
All right. Hey Margaret, you're on mute and your camera.
Okay, good morning. I was working outside today, so I'm wearing my little braids. I
Hey,
kept
that's
hearing
good.
compost, and I thought you were calling compost, Margaret Compost.
Margaret Compost. Hey, I got
Yes,
Compost, the
your
compost
your
you know,
queen.
professional farming name.
I got called Margaret Compost more times in my life. I guess maybe I don't know if that kind of helped influence my farming.
And I will share, Justin, Margaret is also an Aggie. She went to
I
NMSC.
am
Yeah,
an Aggie.
She's an Aggie. Yep. So,
Actually, my introduction for myself was going to be slightly different today because today we're talking about the juice.
oh,
You know,
awesome.
the juice to the secret sauce.
The juice to the secret sauce. Awesome.
Yeah, and I think I needed to share some of my other experience to have, I guess, to validate how it came about this secret sauce.
Great. Well, Margaret, I think maybe your camera closer might be like halfway if you open up just a little bit. I just see
I
some
do
black on
believe
the
you
inside.
are. I think you're right.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. A
Also,
little
what
bit.
is going on?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I need to turn off that light behind me because it's giving off a little bit of a glare. Let
So
me, why is that not opening all the way?
I see it. And if it's all good.
I think that's all it wants to do. I don't know what
No
happened
problem.
there. It was
Just
working
your
last
face.
week. Okay, let me turn off the glare and I'll be right back.
Got it.
yes. I one time, speaking of Aggies, I one time got in a little bit of trouble because the governor was speaking down here, and she had mentioned how she went to UNM, and I booed as a joke,
Yep.
and my
Uh-oh.
boss slapped my shoulder.
It's a
I know
real
I'm always making the inappropriate jokes, so I totally get you, Justin.
Yeah, thankfully the governor laughed. It was kind of funny.
That's
That's
good.
Well, she was down here at NMSU. She's like, "Yes, I'm an alumni of UNM," and I just went, "Boo."
uh-oh.
Maybe not with the governor, but
Maybe.
Right. How many people do we have with us today? I see Andrea. I see Bougie Bees. Andrea, are you Bougie Bees? And you just
Mm,
No, Andre,
So
introduce
I just
yourself,
have
Andrea.
to, yeah.
Andrea is
okay.
the person who put together all the wonderful flyers, Margaret.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay. I also just scrolled right and I saw that I found Bougie and Melissa. Okay. Well,
You're a good student worker here, so we've been fortunate to have her with us, and does a lot of great graphic work, and
it
yeah,
was
keep this.
beautiful. Honestly, you do really nice work.
yeah, great
It's
job.
good to meet you, Andrea. Good to know a person because what I found is that when you go to that subject matter expert that does it for a living, it comes out so much better than those of us that try to DIY.
Absolutely.
I'll DIY plumbing all day long, but I won't touch graphics because people that are, no, it makes a difference, you know? I mean,
Yeah, it really does.
nobody's gonna see the glue dripping from my pipes and, you know,
Yeah.
I can be, but graphics really can either move people into action or just turn them off and leave them with a feeling like, oh, they're not very professional. I want to find someone else.
Yeah,
Well,
very
yeah,
true.
Margaret, we're gonna have you stay on after the call when we finish this call too to just connect with Justin as well. We just had a
Okay.
meeting with the New Mexico Economic Development Department, specifically their Healthy Food Financing Fund. And there's huge opportunities. They are coming out with an RFP for those on the call to just continue to support more access to healthy food. So there's going to be more grants available from the state, but I'd love to talk with you all afterwards. But I'm going to pass it to Justin. I don't know if you're going to do an introduction, but I'm sure it's great to introduce yourself and introduce our speaker today, Margaret, as well.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Jake. Appreciate it. Welcome everybody. I see Dane just joined us as well as Bougie Boutique and Melissa. Thanks for joining us today. We should have a couple more joining us that might be a little bit late, but really excited to get started on our second workshop in our three-part Business Essentials series. Really fortunate and appreciative for Jake and Margaret for spearheading these workshops and bringing all of their wealth of knowledge and experience, not just from the field, but from the business side as well. So really fortunate again and appreciative. And then also on the call is Andrea Quintal, our student worker here at the Arrowhead Center at NMSU, who'll be joining us today as well. And so with that, I'll pass it off to Margaret so we can get started. And Margaret, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. We should have done this before, but can you make either me able to share or an administrator? Because I have a PowerPoint. I'll start talking while you do that because I use the PowerPoint as a guide to help me keep on track and make sure I don't forget everything. But I know
You
what I
should
was
be
going to
good.
talk to you guys today about
Yeah.
because it's very, very exciting, the things that I think we're going to talk about today. So first of all, we do introductions. I can share now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, let me see here. This is the part that always makes me nervous because I cannot find what I need when I need it. But I did go in and clean up all my millions of open windows
Yay.
to be able to share with you guys
Perfect.
a little more organized view of the world. Okay, so
Awesome. We can see it.
that's me again. That's today. And today I call it financial planning. But it's really not planning until you have a full understanding of the environment that you're working in. And I have this slide here because I brought it last time. Justin didn't get to see it. This is my family history of farming. Believe it or not, that on the right is me and my kids. My daughter is now a captain in the Army, and my son is actually going to go back to school. And unfortunately, he's going to go to UNM or not, I think. But because I am an Aggie, that's my first sales job was at that fruit stand with my tia and my grandmother. So I'm like a fourth generation market vendor. And I'm going to tell you what, that market experience is what really made me think of my undergrad in marketing. And it's really what taught me so much about sales and business, that experience, that firsthand experience of working with customers and hearing from them and you know, getting to know who your customer is. So you might think, well, I thought this was financial planning. Why are we talking about marketing? Because you do some of the same things when you're planning for finances as you do when you're planning for marketing. Unfortunately, we don't ever, we kind of silo education and we don't kind of to ever. And this is kind of my kind of response to that. So I put this slide up to tell you what my other criteria or why you guys should listen to me today. I graduated with an MBA in 1986 from New Mexico State University. Yes, that was a long, long time ago. My first job was actually one of the most eye-opening experiences of my life. They hired me. I actually had a couple of jobs before then, but they didn't really count because people didn't want to hire an MBA with no experience. They were either afraid that I would gain the experience and want to take their jobs, or basically an MBA with no experience is kind of useless in their opinion. So my first job, I was hired to actually write policies and procedures for an outpatient radiology facility so that I could use those policies and procedures to actually manage the building when we opened. So that was my first experience of being master of a universe. I learned about administrative operations for an outpatient facility like nobody else. I was the expert on billing because I had to write all the policies and research Medicaid, Blue Cross Blue Shield. It wasn't Molina back there. I forget. It was I forget. Anyway, the names have changed with Medicaid for a long, long time, and the rules change just as often. So, like I said, that was my first experience being master of the universe. I got that job as the business manager. And from there, I went on to manage a whole lot of other things in my career. It kind of opened the door. Once you have experience, people actually want to hire you when you have an MBA. Before then, I was just more of a threat and kind of useless to them. And I actually pretty was because I learned a lot of things in books, but I did not understand the application. So why are we talking about marketing like that? It's because one of the most critical things that you're going to do when you learn your finances is you're going to set some pricing, right? Well, in order to set pricing, I want to know what my profit needs to be and what kind of profit I'm going to make. Because basically, if I'm not charging enough money, I'm going to lose money. So profit is very important and critical to your finances. And it's one of the things that we do a lot of planning to figure out what we're going to charge, or some people don't. The reason I have it in there versus competition is because anything that you say, this is what I need to make, you got to temper that against what everybody else is making. And the reason I really, really want to emphasize looking at your competition and looking at the external ecosystem that you live in, because it's critical to your dollars. If you're a food processor and you have refrigerators and all kinds of tools that you've been using to kind of prototype your products, great. But the minute you go to a certified commercial kitchen and you have to buy, I think it's UFI. It's a commercial code that says that this product was approved for use in a commercial kitchen. It has it's basically they create products that are normal, but have less, they're less penetrable by mold and things like that. They're easier to clean. So the minute you go to that realm, you're going to spend a lot more money on a refrigerator. You can no longer go spend $300 or buy one used for $150. You're not going to spend somewhere in the area of $1,500 for a refrigerator. So that's why I tell you, know your ecosystems. Not just competition, but I should have put in here the legal aspects of your business, because a regulator gets involved, you're going to up the ante. You're now going to have to hire somebody to or spend the time to get a permit. It's a higher level of professionalism that now is going to cost more money. Like we were talking earlier about graphics, you no longer get to DIY things. You should go talk to somebody, a technical person, especially when we're permitting things. Okay, so pricing, it's critical to know your numbers, but it's really critical to know your competition. I worked with a farmer about a year ago or a year and a half ago, and somebody had done a really fancy, what they called a business plan, but in my opinion, wasn't even, it was scaled way beyond anything that was actually going to be viable for this small farmer to execute. So, when you do go out to the experts and you ask them, you need to temper things, bring your own wisdom. But see, that's what happens when you become master of your universe. Knowledge is power. Okay. So the more knowledgeable we are about our business, the more confident we are when it comes to negotiating contracts, pricing for things that you're going to buy, to be a better salesperson, to sell your product, but also just to not buy other people's expectations if they don't fit what you're trying to do. So the confidence and the experience that it brings you, I think, is well worthwhile to do your research. Okay, so let's talk about target profit. And some people always think like, holy smokes, you mean I can just say what I want to make? Well, yeah. But I would do again some research. Know your industry. Grocery stores make about a 1% margin. Do you really want a grocery store business? One, you don't have probably the the investment. So we need to look at what we're spending our money on and get a return on investment. Anyway, so we need to have goals. Okay, what are we going to because basically our revenue minus our costs minus our salary is what our profit is. So how do you know what your salary is going to be? Well, I say you need a personal budget because you have that benchmark, you have that milestone. It's like, I don't care what I do, but my burn rate, what is a burn rate? Okay, we'll talk about all these in a little bit, but I know personally I have to make 4,300 a month. If Margaret doesn't make 4,300 a month, the bills don't get paid. I don't get to buy my prescriptions or whatever, and I don't have prescriptions, but my eyeglasses, or I won't be able to afford tires next year. So I have a minimum budget of what I have to make. Then you back it out. What is it that I have to do to make that money? If you're a farmer, what crops am I going to plant? But being a farmer brings a whole other level of financial planning that you absolutely need because you need to manage that cash flow. Okay. So seasonality plays huge into that. You guys down south, you get a whole growing year, whereas up here in northern New Mexico, I can only have things out on the ground between May 15th and September 15th, although September 15th is changing. It's more like November now. But anyway, so you need to manage your cash flow. You need to plan for that seasonality, those periods in time when you absolutely know that I'm not going to make enough money, but you got to know when they are. So what do? We plan. But you also need for emergencies. A couple years back, my pump gave out. And of course, like pumps do, they give out in the middle of June when you're working them the hardest. But also, it's most critical to get a replacement pump. I've already gotten to the point where I'm saving up to buy a second pump so that when that happens again, I can just switch it out. I don't have to wait 8 to 12 weeks for a delivery, because when you're a farmer, you got to wait 8 to 12 weeks for a pump to be delivered. You might as well kiss the season goodbye, right? Okay, so having a savings plan is really, really important. Also, savings is critical, not just for emergencies. You should have a savings plan anyway, because right now I'm trying to save up for, I want to change one of my hoop houses into a grow area for fish. I want to raise my own tilapia and my own protein because I love fish. Why am I, buying it somewhere from somewhere else? But that's going to cost money. So you got to save that aside. But the reason I brought the hoop house along is because I wanted to remind you guys that just because you say, okay, I'm going to improve the seasonality and now I'm going to start selling in the winter, good luck with that. So there's a lot of things wrong with season extension in northern New Mexico. I'm hoping it's better for you down south. But the problems up north is they came around and they gave all these hoop houses, equip grants, and everybody put up these cold frames, except guess what? We have nobody to sell to in the winter. And if we do sell, we have to sell to a grocer, a cooperative. And by the way, guess what? We're now making, instead of retail prices like we were used to, we're now making wholesale prices. Kind of put a squash on that, right? I love growing in hoop houses. It makes everything so much easier. Mitigation, you don't have to basically even irrigate, because that condensation in the hoop house practically waters it. I used to have to water instead of like maybe once a month, just to keep the moisture in there, because the condensation watered every in the morning. I love growing in the winter. What I don't love growing in the winter is there's no farmers markets. There's some winter markets, but guess what? The offering is a little less than stellar, so the customers tend to go away too. So if you had big plans of growing in the winter time and maintaining the same level of revenue that you were generating in the summers, it's not going to happen. So it's something to consider. But all of these things aren't going to happen like, you don't put your seed in the ground and then just say, well, somebody will buy it. You kind of need to know where you're going to go sell it. I talked earlier about a farmer that got sold. He basically planned a facility that was like millions of dollars, and I just don't even know how the government was going to fund it, especially when the person that did the plan for him failed to talk to, well, who's going to buy it, who's going to buy this cornmeal at $15 a pound. So I made a few phone calls, and guess what, I found out that exactly what he was proposing to do, another tribe had already done it, and they were doing it, and their product was undercutting his by about 75%. It totally, I think, well, I know it made him think twice about his next steps, because that's just it. The bigger you scale your projects, the more risk you bring with it, like things can fail and go wrong. So all of this is that we do in planning is to really help risk, so that when you go in a certain direction, a certain strategy, you go in with eyes open. So that's why I firmly believe that the most important, and it's not really special sauce, okay, I call it special sauce, but you got to have your budgets and your plans, and you got to do your homework, and then you got to do surveillance, what I call surveillance. Keep an eye on everything all the time. Okay, so I'm going to move on with that. That's kind of like big picture. So the stuff we talked about last time was external things. Honestly, almost everything I gave you last time, and I'm sorry, I forgot to give you guys my PowerPoint. I'm going to do that, but you could probably do a Google and find it. The stuff that I'm going to talk about today is a little bit more about how do we actually put our financials together in a way that can make sense, and because they got to make sense to you. You need to be able to read them, okay? So what do? We learn from the pros. Remember last time I told you, I have a slide in here. On the left are the things that when you're trying to get capital, you try to go for a bank loan, they're going to ask you for your profit and loss, a balance sheet, bank statements, tax returns, projections, estimates, a cash flow statement, credit score, return on investment, and resume. Well, guess what? You need that big picture. Those are the pros. That's the bank asking you for all this information so that they can go in and assess the health of your business. Learn from them. Run those reports if you have the software, run those reports and know what every single line item means. That is your homework for your business to be able to be master of your universe. Okay. What does the balance sheet tell you? Well, the balance sheet not just tells you how much cash you have in the bank savings, it tells you what your accounts receivable is. You can, if you're using a software, the beautiful part is that you can zoom in and get a statement and find out exactly who owes you and how long they've owed you. Because if there's people out there that still owe you money, and a lot of us work on a cash basis, so we don't really manage accounts receivable. But, there was a time when I did extend credit to restaurants until you start to realize, wait a minute, Charlie over here hasn't paid me in 60 days. Maybe I shouldn't be taking him any more produce. And it was a good thing, because like the next day he closed his doors and I never got that money. Keep an eye on your accounts receivable. Accounts payable is all the liabilities, who I owe. The big one on there is if you owe the IRS, oh my gosh, pay them right away. I think I mentioned last time, if you ever have to deal with the IRS, ask them to adjust interest or penalties if you forgot to submit a tax return or something, and they assess a penalty or interest. They have it within the power to adjust those things. Ask. And if you get somebody that's a curmudgeon, just say, excuse me, I got to get my paperwork, and you come right back to it and ask next week, or get somebody else on the phone and ask them. Understand your profit and loss, and not just the summary. Go in there and do a detail and find out, well, wait a minute, what is this? What does this cost? So you need to know high level, the trees, look at the landscape, the forest, but then you need to be able to manage the detail. And when you have a software, you can get those high level summaries and drill down on anything that looks questionable. Why is this number so high? Because sometimes we forget, right? Especially at the end of the year. And then you're like, oh, shoot, that's what I spent money on. But I think the most important thing that I use profit and loss for is that analysis to see where I messed up. Why didn't I make enough money, or why, or oh geez, I am making money, how can I invest it to make more, or should I be saving right now for next month because I know I'm not going to make money. Okay, so big picture, learn from the pros. What kind of terms do they use? Bankers use things like liquidity ratio. Why do they care about that? Liquidity ratio is the cash that you have on hand, whether it be in the checking account or, how much cash is coming in and how much do I have enough cash to cover payroll, my taxes, and my bills, okay? You also need, if you're like in a business like a restaurant, well, usually that would be your bills, because usually they, if you're in good standing with a company like Aramark or somebody like that, they'll front you the food and then send you a bill. But those are the most important bills to pay, because the minute you don't pay them, they start showing up with the vegetables, just like I did to that restaurant, okay? The burn rate is really important. Burn rate is what are you actually spending every month. You should know that personally, and you should know that for your business. Why? Because that's like a real good, just like measure. Like last month, oh dude, we're only going to make this month when I'm only billing 3,400. Geez, I'm going to be short 600. I know that my burn rate is 4,200. Okay. I need that number every month, and I work to that number every month, and I measure against it on a weekly basis. So overhead, what are the expenses that I don't actually bill for, but I should be billing for, because they're things that get paid whether my business is selling anything or not. My rent, my liability insurance, my what other kind of insurance, taxes, etc. All of that is overhead. Okay, cost of goods sold. That is, some of us don't have cost of goods sold. If you're a service person like I am, on one hand, because I have multiple businesses, but one of my businesses is consulting. I basically just use all my internal capacity, and I don't really have to go buy any raw materials to be able to sell my service, right? But if you are like a construction person, or somebody that buys other products from people, marks them up and sells them, or somebody that buys things like raw materials like food and then cooks it up and then packages it and sells it, you will have a cost of goods sold. Revenue, it's revenue's not what came in the bank that month. You need to subtract out discounts. If you go out there and tell people, if you bring in this coupon, I'm going to give you 10% off, you better make sure that you remove that 10% from your projections, because you're not going to make it. Also, if you have something that goes bad and is perishable and you have a big amount of waste, people bring it back. You have to give them credit for that. So revenue isn't just everything you sold. It's what got left after your discounts and your write-offs. Okay. What does return on investment mean? It means that if I'm spending money for every project I put on my farm, I do what ifs. Like if it's going to cost me 10,000 to go do my fish project over there, I want to make sure that I'm going to make that money back in 1 year. I'm not the kind of person that's going to invest. Now, if I'm investing in a house, I might want to make in 3 years, right? So it kind of depends on how much you're investing and what you're comfortable with living with. Some of us don't have the leisure of a lot of money. So if I invest the money, I got to make it back quick. Knowing what that means and how long it's going to take you to complete the project and start making money, and how soon you can repay your savings, because savings isn't just discretionary income. You need to make it back. So knowing your return on investment is important, and knowing your profit margin. how much money am I actually making here? After I paid my overhead, my cost of goods sold, my own salary, all of the expenses, what is the percentage of sales that and earnings that I have left over? Because that will allow me to give somebody a discount if I need to. You know, sometimes you have to have what we call loss leaders. For example, I was working with at Okewinge with the San Juan Ag Co-op one year, and the farm manager had planted an acre and a half of cucumbers. I don't know why they did that, because they were not a facility that was set up as a cannery. They were actually dehydrating. So it never quite made sense, but they brought in this farm manager from Tennessee, and I'm not quite sure if he really got he got the assignment. But anyway, that summer I had just like, I think, one row of cucumbers, and I had so many cucumbers. I was giving them away to people that came and bought from me, because it was a giveaway and people loved it. So they were showing up for the free cucumbers and then buying other things. You got to know what people are doing out there. I didn't know I was undercutting him, and I don't even know why I brought up that part of the story, but you can give things away, or sometimes they call them loss leaders. They'll advertise like at Target or Walmart, and they we're doing such and such, 10% off of this, and it's really mainly made to have you come in and buy other things and spend more money. You can do that too. So I always say learn from the pros. And here I go talking marketing again. But one of the things that I do is just watch what other retailers do and learn from them. For example, I went up to Gallup one year, or a couple year ago or so. I was meeting with people at Zuni, and I hadn't been in Gallup in a million years. And I just said something to my son about, oh my gosh, Gallup has really grown. I don't know, I said their economic base is a lot larger than even Espanola. And he said, how do you know that, Mom? You can't make statements like that. And I said, well, in Gallup, they have a Bed Bath and Beyond. They had a Home Depot. They had all these box stores. You do not attract the big boys unless that customer base or economic base is in there. They have the big money to do the surveys and the marketing analysis. I don't, but you can watch what other people are doing and learn from them. So it's all about education. Being the master of your domain means by knowing more about your business inside and out than anybody else. Okay. So we talked about managing the forest. Now let's talk about managing the trees, because how you get to be really well informed is by looking at all your data and compiling it together in one place. So you can look at the forest, or you can scroll down, zoom in, and look at the actual limb or the leaf. Okay. I like nature as a comparison, but I tell people, look at those bank statements every month. Just there's a way with software that you and it'll roll the expenditures automatically. You still have to accept them. If you don't have that, where you're looking at every single expenditure every month, then please, by all means, at least pull out your bank statements or your credit card statements and make sure that every charge that you have on there is actually yours. Because I'm a farmer, I used to do this horrible thing where I would just do my books once a year when it was time to file my taxes. Embarrassed to say, but it was the truth. And one year I went back and I realized I had gotten a charge. I think it was like $200, like 5 times or 4 times. I never figured out where that charge came from. And the worst part was, it was like I was mischarged not just once, but like 5 times. And I was never able to get it taken off my credit. I mean, my return to me from my bank, because by the time I looked at my statement, it was like it happened in July, and I'm looking at my statement the following February. The bank basically told me, if you had noticed this, within 90 days, we could have challenged it and given you the money back. So it's important to keep your eyes on everything. And nobody, okay, so here's the thing. We're all in business because we like to do other things. Let's be honest. Financial management is not anything that's going to get most people really excited. I get excited about it because I know it's the difference between being successful in business and being a failure. If you're not making money, then it's going to be a very short time before you have to go work for someone else. And I don't want to work for anybody else. So that's why I do this stuff. There's a lot of tools out there that you can use that are available to you. I use QuickBooks. I like the reporting. I like the fact that I can look at a report and then I can zoom in and look at the detail and find out exactly what that money was. I've gotten very comfortable with the ability to do payroll. I have to track if I'm paying a contractor so I can do their 1099s at the end of the year. That makes it very useful for me. But there's a lot of people using different kind of systems. I have a lot of people that I know that are just using Square because everything they do, they sell like at markets and whatnot. And that's sufficient for them to just be able to know what came in and what went out. And they're simple, I guess it depends on the complexity of your business and the complexity of what you're doing and your goals. If you really are very serious about like building your business and tracking your costs and your revenues and what everybody owes you and doing a decent job of payroll, I actually do recommend QuickBooks. But when I'm, but it's not the end all. Okay. I know a lot of people that actually use just a spreadsheet. I've worked with people that use like a book. I had this one most organized woman that I've ever seen, and she just used a calendar with a notebook behind it and a bunch of tabs and little places where she kept her receipts, and she had a little manual ledger, and she was the master of her universe. She knew everything about her business. So it doesn't require the fancy tools. It just find the system that works best for you. But really what it is when we're busy in business and we're buying and we're selling and we're making things, it gets a little chaotic sometimes, depending peak of season. So we have a tendency to not do the things that we don't like doing, right? I know I'm a horrible procrastinator. I've used stuff like that extra $800,000 that I paid to somebody for no good reason to motivate me to do it in a more responsibly, timely fashion. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts here. You get things like like bank statements. If you have your own personal bank account, great, but your business needs a bank account. I definitely recommend if you have an LLC, if you have a corporation, you absolutely need that second bank account. And for everybody else, it just helps manage things better. The other one that I absolutely recommend if you're in business, especially if you're making any kind of products that people apply to their person, either topically or inhalants or bathing or eating, consuming, you definitely need liability insurance. You just never know when something's going to go wrong. And yes, even if I didn't do anything wrong, it's still going to take time and effort out of my budget to go hire an attorney and deal with this issue just to prove that I didn't do anything wrong. Liability insurance helps you cover that cost, mitigate that risk, and it's peace of mind. Get liability insurance. Okay, back to some summary here. So we get all our receipts, all our invoices, and basically we put them into little buckets. The software allows you to create what we call the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts is just the same categories that you see on your profit and loss, okay? If you have a farm, you're going to want to see all your revenue. Did I get grants? Did I get a loan? Some of these things are on your balance sheet, but if you have a loan, you're going to pay interest payments. But you have to account for all the revenue, okay? We talked about allowances and discounts. We talked about all these expenses you're going to have. And if it's a real simple formula, you see it in there, you have your revenue minus your expenses, you know what your profit was. Great. If you're dealing with a business where you now have cost of goods sold, I definitely recommend that you incorporate that into your reporting in such a way that you can break it out and see it separately from everybody else. I'm going to show you an example in a minute here. So that, again, cost of goods sold, it's different from supplies. Supplies would be like if I'm a contractor and I buy drill bits and screws. No, screws is a direct cost, but if I buy drill bits and things for my equipment, to get to the job, to actually perform the job, it's ancillary products. Things like if I'm a contractor and I spend things on screws and lumber and insulation, those directly go into the house or the project I'm building. Your cheese, your beef, your tortilla, those go into the burrito you're making, but you wrap it in a piece of paper to hand it to somebody. The consumer walked off with it. It's part of your cost of goods sold, okay? That would be different than the cleaning supplies that you use to actually wash the sink. That's the difference between supplies and cost of goods sold. I'm going to show you now why it's important to look at them differently. So I have here a spreadsheet, and I don't know how well we can see this because you know how Zoom is. I hope your screen's bigger than mine, but you see this? I don't really know if you can see down at the bottom, but these people were losing money. They were losing about $3,000 a year. Okay. And when you look at it like this, it was like hard to tell what's going on, right? Why are they losing money? Okay. But it was such a simple thing that I did that really made me realize that how important reporting is and compiling all this data, because it gives you information that you might not otherwise see. So this is an actual company I worked with, and the names have been removed to protect the innocent. But and she's actually okay that I use this in my slide presentation because it was like really mind blowing for her. So what I did is they're a construction company and they go out and rehab. They rehab tubs, and most of their work is done some in locally, but most of it's done across the country. They target big like motel hotels and do big jobs like that. So they do quite a bit of travel, which they never really considered their travel, their cost of goods sold. But what I did for them was I broke it out. So we looked at cost of goods sold. And the first time I showed her this spreadsheet, she said, "Oh my gosh, we lost job money on 4 jobs." She immediately knew what was wrong. I showed her with this little diagram a couple of things. One, they weren't charging enough. She used to argue and fight with her husband that they were charging enough, because they had this little formula where they would go through and calculate out the direct costs and double it by 2 and add in, like, I forget what was for mileage or travel. And she actually thought that they were making money on the local jobs and losing on the jobs out of town. And what she found out was the opposite. They were actually losing on the jobs out of town because they never really thought of charging for all the travel. They also weren't charging for overhead. If you down here on the far right-hand side, I have there 31.41%. What that means is that all these expenses that are not direct costs over here is 31%. So what they should have been doing is, if they estimated that a job was going to cost 10,000, they should automatically add 31% on their pricing or their bids in order to make money. So they basically, nobody was helping them cover the cost of the electric, the truck that they pay for, all the other expenses that were not direct materials. One little change to the report helped her to see where the problem was right away. It doesn't always work out that way. But hold on a second here. Anyway, it doesn't always work out that way where it's that obvious, but sometimes the way that you find information is to get out of the weeds and look at the forest, okay? In this case, it really worked out really well. She now knows what her overhead rate is. They started including the cost of travel, and she could finally show her husband without any kind of debate, any kind of issue, where they were losing money, because that was the big thing. They constantly had a push and pull where she wanted to charge a little more. And he was like, no, no, we can't, because, we won't get the jobs. It doesn't matter if you get the job, if you're, basically subsidizing somebody else's project, is what I call it. When people don't pay you enough, they're basically subsidizing what they do. None of us that are small business, I think, can afford to do that. So by knowing exactly what your revenues should be, your pricing, no, you got to know your costs, you got to know your overhead. And then when you go in there, you can negotiate with confidence. If you don't have all this knowledge, you don't have the power to do those things. I'm gonna share something very quickly with you. I used to tell my college students, one of the first things that I would start one of my first lectures in the semester was to talk about the 4 kinds of power. Most of us, we weren't born with a silver spoon in our mouth, in our hand. So we don't have the power of money. That's why we start small businesses, because we see that as the opportunity to move ourselves beyond where we started, right? So we don't have the power of money. We're not the military, so I have no power of, absolute power. I can't tell somebody, go do this, and they go do it. The military is the only place you find that. I also am not that charismatic. I actually did run for office a couple of years ago, and I realized I'm not very likable. But it's okay. What I have strived for my entire life is the knowledge of power, and that one is available to all of us. You guys have already grasped that, because you're in college and you're here trying to learn more. I'm saying the next step is learn your business better than anybody else. Not just the internal ecosystem of the details of what comes in and what goes out, but learn the external ecosystem. Who is your competition? Who are your vendors, and how are they doing? Because before you go start lending credit to people, make sure that they're not going to belly up and leave you high and dry. So you really have to do your homework, is what I'm saying. To me, the whole thing starts with projections. You can use software all you want, but the software be your scribe, which captures your actuals. It doesn't capture like the what ifs. What am I, like when I get an idea to go do something, the first thing I do, I put a spreadsheet together, because I'm going to want to find out, am I going to make enough money to cover my costs? Why do I need to know that? Because I know what my personal budget is and what I need to make every month, just to be able to pay my bills and continue to do this and not have to go work for somebody else. Okay. Up to now, in this budget, I was relying on my outside income. I'm shifting that, but not without an eye to what it's going to cost me every single month. And I say do it by month, because when you live on a seasonal life, or when your margins are really, low, if you're in a retail operation, it's not like farming, but retail has very, very pretty defined seasons, and you need to know what that is. You need that seasonality in your planning. So I definitely say do it by month. Also, for me, it's critical. Like my utility bills in June go crazy, because if our OSEC is not running, I have to pay for pumps and water. A $600 electric bill, when you're not expecting it, can be really debilitating. So not only do you have to plan for it, but then you have to keep an eye on it, surveillance. Okay. Am I still billing enough? Why am I losing money month after month? You don't want to wait till, April, when you're doing your taxes, to realize that you lost money last year. You want to know every month when things are starting to go south, so you can turn it around. That's the most important thing to what I call the pivot. In this economy, you just never know what's going to happen. We've got tariffs. We got people not like right now. Mexico, we have drought. People are wondering whether they're going to plant or not. You need to take advantage of opportunities when they are there, but how do you know if you're not paying attention? So you have to be do what I call surveillance, internal and external. And that's the only way you're going to have the information to make a pivot when you have to. And then know your terms and keep an eye on everything all the time. Again, I use profit and loss statements for pricing, bidding, and analysis, but I really use the Excel spreadsheets for projections. And that's kind of where I'm at today. So I got done a little bit faster than I expected to. Any questions? Are we still, did I put you all to sleep? Come on, to tell me I didn't put you all to sleep.
Not me.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
this was very thorough, very interesting.
Very thorough. I like that. I
Yeah,
like thorough.
it was thorough. There's a lot. We covered a lot. It was great.
Well, last week I thought was even worse. I mean, not worse in terms of the amount of information I put out last week. I thought it was kind of a lot. It was I was kind of dry mouth by the time I was done, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I hope everybody caught that." I do have a lot of stories because I've been around a long time. So, but I'm also trying to limit my storytelling, just keep it some things for effect, but not to bore you and overwhelm you with things you don't need to know.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much information there. And our goal with these types of workshops have always been a bit of a crash course into some of the topics because each one of these workshops could be its own series in and of itself. I mean, the information here could be 2, 3, 4 workshops to really get into it. So our goal and what I think you did really great is get that kind of crash course, big overview, some of these bigger concepts that we should be thinking about.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it's meant to do is, you take a workshop and it's just so you can go back and incubate and look at what's going on in your business and your personal life because it's very hard to separate that when you're a small business person. But
Yeah,
you really need to you got to manage both and know
yeah,
that
and then
there's reasons to keep them separate. We talked about that last week.
yeah, and our whole goal, right, is there's lots of ideas, and like you said, come back, synthesize, and distill some of this information, and then, for everyone on the call, follow up with us, and we're happy to follow up on some of these ideas and concepts and offer those support. I see a hand raised.
I like hands. Who's raising their hand?
Me, Jesse Bennett, Bougie B. um,
Bougie B.
hey, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
definitely.
Okay. So, I was just curious, when you figure out your own salary, are you figuring it out like, how many hours you work or how, what you want to be paid? You're just like, okay, well, I feel like the work I do is worth $20 an hour. Or I don't know. Like how did you figure out or decide um how much you felt like you should be paid?
So I first of all figured out what's the base salary that I need in order to, be able to survive and continue building my business. And I came up with a number of $4,000. I have to make a minimum of 40 grand a year after taxes in order to live. If I don't make that, I have to shut my business and go work somewhere else. Now, I recognize that that's not very much money. And especially at the time when I came up with that budget, I had my 2 kids. But that's the kind of investment I was willing to make because I know what I'm worth right now an hour, but that's not what I plan for when I'm starting a business because you're investing that sweat equity and breathing life into something that wasn't there. Now, by next year, if you see that, oh, holy smoke, snap, I made 20% profit, then of course, increase your salary or take a draw from your equity because you can do that. But if you're going to start taking draws from your equity, you first want to make sure that business is going to be solvent in 3 months. So it's really knowing your business and your planning, but I don't do it from bottom up saying, oh, I'm worth $85 an hour. That's what I'm going to pay myself. I do it very conservatively and pay myself the minimum of 48 grand a year, knowing that by next year it's like an investment in the future. So I don't know if that helped you at all. I approach it differently, I guess it would be my answer. Is that helpful at all, Bougie?
I mean, I guess not necessarily. I mean, so what you said is like you're like, okay, you decided this is what it's gonna take for me to live the way I want to live with all the bills and everything that I have to pay. And you're like, okay, well, I need to make like $4,000 a month or $40,000 a year to cover all these things, right? Is that what you meant? Or
Yeah, that's what I meant. And Grant, sometimes I didn't take the 4,000 a month because, like, farmers, like, we basically have nothing from January through May in northern New Mexico. So what I did was I saved during the summer to make sure I could pay myself that during the winter. So it really is going to be about budgeting and knowing what your excess is going to be. Because you don't want to start paying yourself and then you don't have the money to go buy inventory to replenish your shelves, because it's just knowing what it's going to take for you to continue your business personally first and then your business second. I don't know if that helps. How have you been putting together your profit and loss statements? Do you look at your finances monthly?
me, no, I pivoted. I love pivoting. I work on multiple things, and so right now I am putting everything I have into seeds and buying seeds, buying soil amendments, and I like to make my own soil. Um, but yeah, I'm always reinvesting every penny pretty much that I have right back into what I'm trying to do. So, and I don't have a job or anything like that. I don't have income coming in. The only thing I really highly rely on is programs like this and trying to get grants or stipends or and just put it right back in. So I'm lucky enough that I don't necessarily have bills to pay. There are bills, but like I'm not the one who pays them. So I just pretty much focus on the projects that I'm trying to do personally to help my community and definitely help with the benefits of fresh produce and food. So
Okay, so you're in a very fortunate place. Do you have I don't know, either a partner or somebody that's helping you cover that personal overhead. So you have a lot more flexibility and to be able to pay yourself a salary. But I caution you because, like, when you do get a grant, I've seen people use those grants to pay their own personal finances, and then at the end of the grant period, they don't have anything left. And really, the grant is to build a revenue stream so that it's that fishing pole. Okay. It's not meant to give you fish and so I can eat for the next week. It's meant to be the fishing pole so that from now on, I can continue to fish and feed myself. So it kind of sounds like you're using the grants and the programs as the meal versus the investment. And I would just caution you with that because I've seen a lot of people that go through all of these programs and at the end of the day, there's nobody left wanting to finance their endeavors. I actually know a lot of people that have used loans the same way and then you basically ate all the fish and you don't have a fishing pole.
that's not what I said at all. I said
I'm just, and I no, I recognize that, and I don't mean to offend you. And I wasn't even using you. I'm just saying a caution of what I've seen people do with you. Did use a very critical word. You said reinvest, and I totally understand that because everything I built wasn't because it was basically doing exactly what you're doing, getting a grant here, a loan there, and then just, you know, bootstrapping is what we call that, bootstrapping. But I'm just saying, you know, make sure that one, you're meeting all your needs, which you seem to be, and just plan for the future is basically all I'm trying to caution you to do.
Oh yeah,
I
no.
didn't.
A lot
Okay.
a lot of these grants tell you what they want. So, and if they don't want us paying our own salary, then you don't do that for sure. So,
Right,
uh,
right, right.
different for sure. But this program that we're in right now, AIBE, we get paid, a $600 stipend. That's, well, last year it was like after the event was over, but this year they gave us half in the front and half, I guess in the middle. And so pretty much all that money that I get, I reinvest back into what I'm trying to do with farming and everything like that. I buy all the soil amendments, I buy all the seeds, and I buy, it all goes back in. So I don't necessarily have a high living expense. So I don't need to buy things. I don't, I'm pretty set. So, but yeah, I was just asking you how you yourself created how much you would pay yourself, because I don't pay myself. I don't take any money. Everything pretty much goes back into, uh, you know, trying to grow food for the people. So, anyways, all right, awesome. I appreciate your input.
Bougie,
Oh, you did it.
Bougie, you're doing everything the right way. I mean, you know, when we don't have trust funds and we don't have investors, you basically do what you're doing. You're bootstrapping. You take whatever you can and you're building something. You know, more power to you. Congratulations. That's the right way. I just say still put it in a plan, put it on. It just makes a big difference when you can see all the numbers together in one place and we're no longer like guessing at what that bottom line looks like. Because at some point, I think the goal is for you to be able to take that salary and not be bootstrapping, you know, to eventually to have enough revenue coming in so you can go buy your soil amendments and your seeds and everything with confidence, knowing that that money is going to be there when you need it. That's all it is. It's but you're doing everything the right way.
Trying, but yeah, I'm curious because, like, yeah, like I said, I don't know how to pay myself. So I
Well,
was
and
just,
it's actually better that you're not, because what you're doing is you're reinvesting. When I was talking to you, I was kind of thinking of one person in particular, which is these folks sold a lot of properties back east and they came to New Mexico. And when I went to go work with them, everybody was taking a salary. In fact, they had a livestock manager, a farm manager, and a garden manager, or somebody to manage the wolfies. And I was very interested in looking at their finances because, in my experience, I've never known a farm that had that many managers. I wanted to know who the laborers were. And the unfortunate thing is, all of these people took salaries to the point that after 3 years, they came to New Mexico Community Capital because they were desperate. They had already blown through more money than you and I will probably ever see in one lump sum. And they should not have been taking salaries or giving all the salaries out that they were doing. Jake and I actually worked with another farmer that was paying. I mean, we had a conversation, and I said, I don't know how he's going to cover $35, and that was it 30 or 30, Jake.
Yep.
Anyway, and I'm like, you know, he's going to run out of money. He was with a program that was reimbursing him for all the vegetables, so the cash was running really high, and I just, in my mind, thought he's going to run out of money by September or October.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. So by not taking a salary, you're doing it right. I don't know what
Yeah.
that salary is going to be yet, because I don't know how. I
Yeah.
don't know what,
And
you know. I'm sorry.
and I'll add, yeah, I'll add on because I think we're at one too, so I'll just
Yes,
finish the
please.
conversation. As a social enterprise, you're going to be getting grants in, like you mentioned, stipends, and you're hopefully going to get revenue. And the way that I paid myself is I thought of myself as a project manager. And I think that was probably the easier way to think about, okay, now what do project managers make? And
Right.
so you can easily Google that. What are the comps for project managers? Usually starting $25 an hour. It could go, way, way more. But you're managing a project as opposed to like you're a farmer, selling your products. So that just in that way, right? Because Margaret, you
Mhm.
mentioned that, right? That like it's probably
Yes.
the margins are pretty thin as a farmer. Yes, you could pay yourself. Absolutely, farmers do that. But if you're getting grants, you think of yourself as either a part-time project manager, you're going to be part-time project manager and you're going to, have profit from the farm, you're going to reinvest into yourself. So, great questions. Thank you so much, Margaret, for attending today. Thank you so much, Justin, for having us as well. And yeah, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you,
Stay
everybody,
Thank
for
you,
your
everyone.
time.
stay on for a
Appreciate it.
second, Margaret.
Really great questions. Yes, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here.
All right. Great. Thank you, Bougie B. Have a good day.
Wait, Jake.
Yep.
Hello. I have a question as well. Last class that we had, you were talking about the native farmers something, and then you also were talking about June 5th. June
Oh yeah.
5th.
So our next class, June 5th, is going to be in person in our office from 12 to 2. So Margaret's going to be there for the last session that we're having with NMSU.
Okay, but you also mentioned something about native native farmers. You were talking about maybe some grants or
Native
something.
farmer. Was it?
Maybe, is it
Yeah.
Rooted Relative? The loan program,
I
Rooted Relative?
I don't
Maybe,
know.
but
No?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about that. Yeah, we have a loan program too. So we have our Rooted Relative Fund and our co-op capital lending. But I don't know. If I think of it, yeah, I'll definitely get back to you, but I can't think of anything. The native farmer, maybe the NAF, Native Agriculture Fund, Native American Agricultural Fund.
Native American agriculture, maybe.
Yeah, look up
You can run
that Native
across
American Agricultural
anything.
Fund.
If you run across something, Jake, let me know, because I know somebody
Absolutely.
that's looking also. I have not run across anything lately.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
pretty tight. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I just maybe if we have the recording from the last session, I know you were speaking about it at the beginning of the session. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I was interested in learning more about that. So I
Okay.
appreciate you. Thank you for answering my questions. Hopefully one day I'll be able to pay myself. All
The
right, thank
goal.
Me,
Thank you. See you
you.
later.
that's the goal. That's the goal.
Uh,
That's the goal.
I don't
Definitely. Because
think this up.
none of us want to go back to work for somebody else, do we, Bougie?
No.
No.
Thank you.
All right. See you later. All right. Thank you,
Thanks,
Justin.
Margaret. That
Thank
was
you,
great.
Margaret.
Sure. That almost went south, but
You brought it back. You brought it back.
I hope I did. And that's when you start thinking about somebody specific, it's like
You're trying to
you're
speak from
only
experience, but
yeah, I wasn't talking about her at all. It was more,
yeah.
I've seen a lot of that, Justin.
Yeah.
A lot,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen that.
you know,
It's a dangerous game.
Yep.
that's the danger of grants. And also when people start trying to just get the grant to
What?
it's
Yeah, I think it's people who haven't necessarily lived in the grant world and think like, oh yeah, just get money. I get to do with it what I want.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's
Very, very.
more of a pain than anything else.
Yeah.
All right. So next week, June 5th, we're in person at NMCC on Friday.
Yep.
Right. Excellent.
We got
Good,
that.
good, good. And then we'll also have the Zoom up as well, right?
We'll have
So
the Zoom up.
it'll be
So I'm
hybrid.
wondering, yeah, I would love for you, we could do it a couple ways. Margaret, you could do it live in the classroom, or you could do it like in my office and we'll have it screened live. in the main
Okay.
area. So yeah, there's two ways. I mean, I think for the viewers that are going to join virtually, it might be better to do something like here, like in my office, so that you don't have any distractions or that it's not echoey or, you know,
Okay.
people can see the presentation. So I'm leaning towards that. Also talked about getting some food, so we could put that. So we'll get the caterer, probably just enchiladas, just something simple. So we'll feed you all. Justin, are you coming in person or just Margaret?
Yeah, yeah, I plan
Okay.
on being up.
Okay,
And then
perfect.
we'll also have two guests. We have like two other advisors who we're doing some work with later on
Okay.
in the year.
Okay,
But
perfect.
I invited them to come. I don't know if you know,
Perfect.
I'm pretty sure you know Jeff Atencio will be
Oh yeah.
there. And then have you all worked with him before?
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, Margaret, this goes back decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually worked with him at the San Juan Ag Co-op, where he used to be the administrative assistant there.
Oh, nice. Did you do any work with him currently?
I worked with him through Vida Mejor.
Oh, great. How did that go? Okay. That's why I
Enough
asked.
Enough
I
said.
I hear that. I hear that. Okay.
Well, you know what? Jay can give you a first-hand account from Isleta del Sur.
Yeah,
My experience was somewhat similar.
he's a really awesome person and definitely has big ideas and yeah, just don't really
Sorry.
yeah.
No, that's
You're on the
why I
spot.
asked.
I
It's
didn't
why I
do
asked,
that.
and you don't have to expand anymore.
Yeah.
It's our first time. It's our first time kind of working with him on something like this, and so
Yeah.
I have gotten some insights elsewhere. So I just wanted to touch base, but I think I have all the information. So that works.
Yeah.
Jeff is a great statesman.
Yep.
Mm,
Yep.
I could see that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, we have him on a very limited basis to do some one-on-one advising, so we'll see how it goes. We will hope for the best and wanted to bring
That's
an additional
kind
resource.
of, I heard that, and that's why I also offered if you need someone to do some one-on-one, I'd be willing to help you out.
Okay, I will follow up with you on that. We had, and it came up because we had some out of the blue funding come in. Another office within our department was like, "Hey, I've got a couple dollars if you want to figure out how to spend it." And so
Very cool.
last minute, I was like, "I will do a quick contract for one-on-ones."
Exactly.
Well, and that doesn't mean to replace him now,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't like to take, food out of someone's mouth, but also if you have a need in the future,
Yeah.
I like talking to people, and my intent is always to help them navigate to a better circumstance.
Yeah.
100%, and we'll keep that in mind. And I think there's an opportunity for that coming up too. So, yeah, having not really worked with Jeff like this before, we thought try it out and see how it goes, and then we'll go from there.
That's great.
Yeah.
We'll hope for the
Well, we all live and learn, don't we?
best. Margaret.
No, I mean, I'm just life. It's full of lessons.
Yeah.
Some of them
Yeah.
are, I don't ever, I don't ever consider a misstep a failure. It's just an
Same.
opportunity to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's also about
Put
being
my
able to
foot again.
mitigate.
Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
putting my foot in my mouth too. So
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was really
But
trying
people-
hard not to.
Yeah. And well, people
But
appreciate the support and time, and listening. And, we worked
Yeah.
with, Bougie Bee for a couple different projects, and so it's like this is a special population of people, and it's hard to
Definitely.
support, without being clear. So like, I don't know, it's a whole other thing, but
I really don't like Zoom.
I know.
You
I
can't,
know.
if you can't see the person's face,
yeah.
you don't really know how they're receiving what you're saying. And sometimes you do have to redirect, pivot because you said the wrong word, intentionally or not. Without knowing another person and their personal experiences, you don't really know where they're coming from. and what they're going to be receptive to and what they're not.
Well,
So,
let me throw an idea out there for you all, since, and we could talk about it on Friday, but we're thinking about again how we could best support farmers. And through this whole process, we learned a lot. And the biggest thing is like, um, you know, assessing people's capacity, and our goals, right?
mhm.
And like what is high impact. And so there's a lot of people who are very passionate about farming and food and but are not necessarily thinking about the business side of it, which is great. And we could provide these classes, but if we were going to invest more time and energy into people, then we are thinking about folks that are, again, been in business, did the New Mexico farmers market training, really interested in making sales, institution and wanting to grow. And so that was a hard thing for me to get to that point. But it just made me realize like where can we get the most impact for the time? And so that's
Yeah,
why we were working with
Right.
economic development and some of these grantees that are like, great, they're getting grants from the state. How can we support that to make sure that they fulfill that grant? Because they're going through strict guidelines to even apply for the state funding. That
Mhm.
so they met this certain kind of milestones already, as opposed to people like who have really great ideas. I love farming. I love farming too, but like, I've got to that point that I'm like, this is not a business, for me. Like this is not
yeah.
something that I'm going to scale beyond, maybe not for a while. So
That's a really good point. And when we started this cohort, we got, I think, 35, 36 applications. But going into it, we wanted to do exactly that, is actually gauge capacity. And we tried to do that
yeah,
our best. And our goal was, we want to help and be of service and support everybody. But as we were going
yeah,
through the applications, what we tried to delineate was who's a farmer and who's a gardener, was kind of how we
yeah,
came up with it. Well, yes, we all love farming and we all want to do it, but who is wanting to do this as a business for longevity? Whether
yeah,
they're there right now, and it wasn't to like eliminate people, but it was to, yeah, where can we be of most impact and focus our efforts to get people at that line. And within that cohort, we took a couple who we think were not necessarily there, but we still want to be able to support them. And we have the resources to do it right now. And so we were able to kind of get a cohort where we think, our whole goal was to get them through NM Grown, do the food safety trainings, to try to help them out with the application. We had 13 in the cohort, and going in, I was like, man, if we got 10, I think that would be great. But realistically, if I could get 4 or 5 through that whole process,
yeah,
that in
yes,
my eye will be a success. Is that great? And
How
that's
many did you get? I mean, how
we're
many?
we're we're currently in that process. So we're 6 months into this cohort.
perfect,
Okay.
Yeah.
awesome.
And
And
so
how
we've
many
done
are sticking with you? I mean, how many are you
we
gonna?
are we are now at the point where it's like we have to kick into overdrive to make sure that we are supporting them and pushing them and supporting them. So we've gotten all 12 food safety
Oh, wow.
trained with
Hell yeah.
NMFNA.
Yes,
So
We
yes,
congratulations.
that's
You
huge.
got
thank you
more
very
than you
much.
thought. Good
Thank you
job.
very much. That's the first step and almost the easiest. The next one is working on them with the NM Grown application. Not
Yeah,
only that, but who's actually farming and producing enough to be able to sell to the institutions and to the schools and to everywhere else. And so
yeah,
we're looking at this also in, as you have to with these kind of things. What does it look like 2, 3 years down the line? If I can get 5 this year, what are we going to need to adapt next year? Because there's not hundreds of tribal farmers in the state. And so we can't just mirror this program next year and think it's going to work or that we're going to support them. So how do we adapt the program to support the ones who are in them, who got into NM Grown? How do we go back to the ones who didn't get in but are still interested? And how do we do that? So it's always adapting and like you said, finding the highest impact,
yeah,
not just with what we see, but with what they see and what they've learned. So
yeah.
that's always the challenge.
Yeah, keep us posted. It's such a small community, and
It
so
is.
happy to share notes or anything. We got so embattled in the internal just kind of drama with a lot of the native farmers that we kind of decided to bow out for a little bit because it was just too much politics, including with mentors, you know. But awesome. Well, looking
Uh,
Yeah,
forward.
and that's
Yeah,
and those two things, the last thing I'll say, those are the two things we're trying to be aware of. Is
yeah,
it is a small community, everyone knows
yeah,
everyone, and we also don't want to be duplicative in our efforts. So I'd love to
yeah,
compare notes and always trying to work the organizations and making sure we're not doing I'll try to do the same thing that you guys are doing. And we have some overlap. We do some of the same services, but
Absolutely.
that's why I like the collaboration like this. And
That
that's
makes
it.
me really happy to hear you guys say that, because
Yeah.
the one thing that support is poor pimps. And that's actually why I work for New Mexico Community Capital, because I really see them put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
really support people. And when I talk to Jake and I come to him and I say, look, this person needs money for something, he'll send me to a rooted, or I sent him last week, I sent you what's her name, Christiana and Valentino, because they came to me with questions. So I'm not even a mentor right now, but they still call me because we
Right.
established that relationship 3 years ago. And I had a whole conversation with them, and I said, you're asking me questions well beyond where I can answer. Go back to New Mexico Community Capital and try to get them to line you up with a tax accountant, because that's what you guys do. You line them up with resources. And I love the fact that I can refer people to Jake and know that they're going to just not be a number, and
Yep.
they get support. And I'm not
Awesome.
just saying that because Jake's in the room. I keep saying that everywhere.
Thank
I don't
you.
think you would say it just because he's in the ring.
No, I won't. You already probably know I'm way too, that's my problem. I'm a little bit too honest in what I say sometimes. Sorry about
That's
Not
that.
a problem.
But you
Not
care.
a-
You got a caring heart, and that's what's needed.
I do. I really care about. This is the only power that we have for the disenfranchised. Farmers are entrepreneurs. They have to know, they have to be engineers, electricians, plumbers, and still understand finances. And there is a big difference between the person that's actually trying to make a living. I myself just like the food, and I aspire to be a gentleman farmer someday, but I'm not wealthy enough. So I go out there and I grow. But I'm not making my living off the farm. Although my next business that I really am still interested in is becoming an aggregator, because there are people that do grow and they don't know where to sell it in the winter. And
Right.
I could buy from people to help with that and process and produce a product that can make all of us money. It's actually
Well,
David Strelnick, the lady from Zimbabwe.
Yes. Yep.
That's that.
Yep.
She's my model.
So good
That's
on
what
you.
I want to do. I
Yeah.
want to be her.
At a future date, Justin, I'd love to introduce you to David Shrelneck. He's an economist that's really helped us. And I don't know if you've met him yet, but really awesome. He's based out of Maine, but he has a real passion for working with native farmers, and has gone on to work with other native farmers and brought them to Africa this past year. And so it's really just a great partner. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yep.
Love
Thinks
that.
out of the box is
Thinks
what
out
I
of the
like
box,
about
yeah.
him.
International kind of global perspective, which
Mhm.
is really helpful. Anything else, Justin, that you need from us?
Only other thing, feel free to send me an invoice.
Okay.
Whenever. Sorry, let me rephrase. If you could do that sooner, because our
Okay.
fiscal year is coming up. So I'd like to get it processed before the 15th.
Okay.
So if you could get that next
I'll
week.
work that on that right now. I'll do that. I'll do that today. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, not a problem. And then Margaret, thank you so much. You had also mentioned HFFI. Would love to
Yes.
talk about that with him.
You got it. Sounds great.
So the HFFI is coming out with another round of proposals?
Potentially.
Potentially?
Yes. It's gonna be a limited though. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? When I'm up there next Friday, Jake, if you had a couple minutes after the event, if we could sit and chat, 'cause I have some other questions on some stuff. I know you guys have gone off there some IAD grants. So just want to chat about some of those things.
Thank you, guys. You have a great day.
Thanks, Margaret.
Bye-bye.
Not sure if we're still there, Jake, but I'll see you next week.